DreAllDay.com. Tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves anybody out there, especially yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And we put all this together into one framework, one philosophy. We have codified our entire system and process for you to follow. We wrote a book on the subject. We got a university. You'll listen to the daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how people become sheep. How people become sheeple, as some people like to say. Now, what I mean when I say sheep, I'm not talking about the animal sheep that you cut the hair off of and make wool coats out of. What I mean by a sheep is a person who is drifting through life, not having their own direction, waiting for some shepherd to come around and tell them where to go, how to think, what opinion they should have. Now, social media, which has greatly allowed all of us to connect, and even the fact that you're listening to the show, we got to credit the internet and social media for that, so that we're able to connect with each other and see each other and hear what each other has to say. Those are all great things. It is also, there's another thing social media has done, it has sped up the process of many people becoming sheep, unfortunately. And what I mean when I say people becoming sheep, it means it's too easy for some people to be assigned a point of view or assigned an opinion, as opposed to doing the mental work of thinking for themselves and formulating their own ideas and formulating their own opinions. And even more unfortunately, and this is just part of the game, but when it comes to this topic is unfortunate, there are many willing shepherds out here who will gladly tell the sheep what to do, what to think, or what to feel. There's a very lucrative hustle out here that just tell people, hey, here's what your opinion should be. Here's all the information that you need. Here's the news that you should pay attention to. Yeah, this article is 10 pages long, but here's the 2 paragraphs you should pay the most attention to, and this is the opinion you should have because of it. There are a lot of people who have fallen victim to this, and there are different names and titles and phrases that have been used about this. We're going to talk about all of that as we get into today's episode. So the whole topic, again, as we go to point number 1, how human beings turn into sheeple, become sheep and drift through life, lack direction, and they allow other people to tell them what their opinions and ideas and thoughts should be, as opposed to doing the mental work required to formulate those by yourself. Point number 1, today's topic, again, how people become sheep, following without thinking. Whatever or whomever is popular, you have attached yourself to it. You don't question why it's popular. You don't question whether there's any actual value within it. You don't question whether it's actually taking you where you want to go, but because it's popular and you see everyone else doing it, you're like, okay, well, I might as well do it. As our parents used to tell us back in the day, I don't know what parents tell kids these days, but back in the day, they would say, well, look, you did it because everybody else is doing it. Well, if everybody else jumped off a roof, would you jump off a roof too? Well, it depends on how big the building was, but you get the point that I'm saying. No, I probably wouldn't jump off the roof. What a lot of us do when we become sheep is we just start following everybody else without thinking. This is the sheep who walk off the edge of a cliff without thinking, and then the sheep behind them, they walk off the edge of the cliff too, not because they think it's a good idea, it's because the sheep isn't thinking at all. They see the person in front of them did it, they see it's 200 people in front of them who did it. All right, I might as well do the exact same thing. Even if it's not helping me, I'm going to do it myself. This is what sheep do. They just follow whatever it seems like everybody else is doing. Now, I remember leading up to the 2020 presidential election, Joe Biden was interviewed by Cardi B, the rapper. Now, this is great political strategy by Joe Biden and his campaign. I mean, he knew that many people of color and many young people who probably don't follow much of politics or know anything about what was going on or anybody, he knew that they followed Cardi B because Cardi B is quite popular. Also, I think he also knew, and this is the way that I saw it when it happened, that Cardi B is not sufficiently deep enough to ask any critical questions of Joe Biden that could possibly make Joe look bad. She wasn't going to ask him anything that he couldn't answer. And many Cardi B fans will simply follow Cardi's lead, and it seems like Cardi's cool with Joe. Okay, then I'm going to be cool with Joe too. And that probably won Joe a good handful of votes. That was an easy W for Joe Biden, an easy couple of buckets. He scored an easy 30 by having Cardi B, quote unquote, interview him for his campaign in the 2020 election. Maybe that's helping win. I don't think that's the reason he won, but hey, maybe it is. Maybe Cardi B swung the election. And it was well played by Joe Biden. This is a great strategic move. Now, I'm not even saying that Joe Biden was wrong for it, and neither was Cardi. I mean, he saw the truth of her influence, that she is a very well-known person. Again, this is all part of the game. And I talked about this actually in even more in episode, not specifically Cardi, but in episode number 1624, when I talked about the biggest challenges to Black Americans, that we are the only culture that elevates entertainers and athletes as thought leaders. Whereas every other culture, we appreciate them as being athletes, but we don't elevate them to being the people to tell us what we should think about things that have nothing to do with what actually made them famous, which is rapping, singing, dancing, and playing basketball. But in our culture, we do this. And again, is one of the challenges I talked about in episode 1624. If you want to go listen to that after you listen to this one. It's not that an entertainer or an athlete can't also be a smart person. I mean, there are plenty of them who are plenty smart. I've done 4 master classes on my virtual mentors, and 4 of those 5 people came from the entertainment industry. So I'm not knocking entertainers, period. But their profession, the thing that they became famous for, the thing that they made their money in, is doing their music or playing their sport. Again, what other culture does this? I don't know of any other culture that does this. This point is not limited to, and when I say we elevate these people, it's not limited to just stupid people who don't know anything. And some of you might be saying, oh, well, yeah, these dumb people, SMHs, they following Cardi B. They think they should listen to whatever Cardi B says. It makes no sense. I'm not talking about just people who are, quote unquote dumb, or they don't know anything, or they just don't have any information. No, this is also very smart people fall for this as well. Very smart people are just as guilty as people who are dumb, and it's very relative who you think is smart and who is dumb. And I'm gonna get to why in a moment. And I'm just saying that those smart people, their intellect, their smartness actually just attracts more sheep who are not smart. And this whole point that I'm making here in point number 1, the topic again is how people become sheep, is we just follow things without thinking. And in the world that we're in today, especially with the internet, and all of us are active on the internet, I know that by the fact that you're listening to this, is we're gonna follow. The whole world is based on following. Okay, let me follow this person and let me just see everything that they're saying. I'm gonna listen to what they have to say, and some of their opinions are gonna become mine. You might not say that when you choose to follow somebody on Twitter, or you like their page on Instagram or whatever on Facebook, but that's essentially what ends up happening. This is why we have influencers, people who have a certain amount of following or a blue verified check next to their name. They have influence. They can offer a certain opinion, and other people are going to follow that opinion, adopt that opinion, and repeat that opinion just because that influential person said it. That person might be the dumbest person in the world. It may be the dumbest person out there on that particular subject, but because they have an audience and because they have people following them, people become sheep and say, okay, well, this person's popular. They obviously must know something. This person has this many followers. They obviously must be good at something. So let me listen to what they say on everything. And this is how many of us become sheep. So in many ways, we have kind of been engineered. We've been programmed to do this because of the engineering and the programming of these applications that we're using on a day-to-day basis. Now, I've talked about social media many times here on the show. Again, you can see that just by looking at the archive of the show wherever you happen to be listening to this. Point number 2, let's move on. Today's topic is how people become sheep. Looking out of the window instead of looking in the mirror. Episode number 1153. The topic was the mirror and the window. This is the subject of leadership. In other words, when there's a challenge to be dealt with, do you look out the window, which means looking at what else is going on outside of yourself that you can't control, 99% of life that you can't control, or are you looking in the mirror at the 1% of life that you have control over, but you have 100% control over that 1%, which is yourself and your actions and your thoughts? The question here is, how much time do you spend looking at others out of the window versus looking at what you are doing or what you need to be doing? See, people who become sheep, they spend a lot more time looking out the window than they spend looking in the mirror. They don't look in the mirror much at all. And if they do look in the mirror, they're only looking in the mirror just to make sure that they look presentable and acceptable to the people outside the window. You should rewind if you didn't hear what I just said. Caring more about what others do or what others think than what you do or what you think is your next step to sheepdom, to becoming a sheep. Is you're paying way more attention to everybody else's agenda and what everybody else is doing or what everybody else thinks or what you think everybody else thinks than you are to what you need to be doing and where you're going and what you're working on. You are, in other words, not minding your own business. Back again, when I was growing up, people would say stuff like, mind your business. And people still say that, mind your business. Episode number 1288, I explained to you what exactly that means, minding your business. Even though everybody knows the same, I don't think a lot of people actually understand what it means to mind their own business. And it is a real thing if you execute it. And again, 1288, I'll tell you how that's done. Now, this one applies on many levels. Because sheep get excited many times over what other people do, but then they don't keep that same energy for themselves. See, the sheep get excited when they see things happening out the window. Oh, look at what this person did. Oh, what this person said. This person responded to this person. Let me give some kind of feedback and make some kind of comment about these people who don't even know who I am. I don't even know who they are, but I'm going to talk about that. All these things serve to distract the sheep from focusing on what's in the mirror. And focusing on what's in the mirror requires responsibility. It requires some personal ownership. It's going to require work. It's going to require effort. It's going to require time, energy, attention, and focus. Your most important investments. And the reason why sheep don't like to look in the mirror is because they don't want to make investments. That's why almost everything to a sheep is an expense. It comes out, but nothing is ever coming back. An investment is something comes out and then things come back. So make sure you are minding your business. This applies, again, on many levels. Episode number 1674. And if we look at this, not even in a negative side, but in the side of when you're even cheering for other people. I asked you in episode 1674, are you your biggest fan? Because a lot of times in life, I see a lot of people who are really big fans of others, but they're not even that big of a fan of themselves. Just a month ago, we talked about this, less than a month ago, like 3 weeks ago. Are you your biggest fan? Do you spend more time cheering for your favorite athlete or your favorite entertainer or your politician of choice than you spend cheering for yourself? Do you give more energy to what they want to do, to their cause, than you give to your own cause? Because if you're doing that, then you are becoming a sheep. Just because you're supporting somebody and you want them to win and you're cheering for them and you feel like it's a positive thing, all right, that still doesn't exclude you. You're not exempt from being a sheep just because you're giving positive energy to everything out the window as opposed to negative energy. Giving negative or positive energy does not exclude you from sheepdom if you're giving more energy out the window than you're giving to the mirror. Because the people that you're paying attention to out the window and they're doing their thing and you're happy for them and or you're hating on them, whatever the situation is, they're paying attention to the person in the mirror. All right, that's why you're paying attention to them. They're expecting a certain level from themselves, and that's why they get the buy-in from the people who don't expect anything from themselves. If I don't expect anything from myself, I got to go find somebody who does, because that's compelling. It's interesting. I'll watch that. But if I put the emphasis on myself, all right, now I'm responsible for getting that off the ground, for creating that momentum, starting that from scratch. So which one are you doing? Again, episode 1674. Are you your biggest fan? We also talked about that in the section of my book, Work on Your Game, which you can get at workonyourgamebook.com. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how people become sheep. The third way you become sheep is that you allow others to assign you your opinions. Meaning the opinions that you have, you did not come about independently. You didn't come about through your own thinking and say, all right, here's the situation. Here's what happened. I see people are saying things about it, but let me get all the information first of all. Let me turn it around in my mind, turn it over in my mind and see what I think about it and what I'm getting out of it. How am I deciphering this? How am I looking at this? And here's the opinion that I've come up with. Most people do not do this. And if you use the internet at all, you probably know this. And shit, I might be talking about you. Being assigned your opinions is when someone else, I don't care if it's a news outlet, if it's an online influencer, if it's an athlete, if it's a politician, if it's your boyfriend, girlfriend, mom, dad, brother, sister, your kids, someone has an opinion about something and they offer their opinion, and then all of a sudden that opinion becomes your opinion because you didn't take the time to independently think about it. And I want to explain something. I offer a slight disclaimer here. It's not even really a disclaimer, but I will call it a disclaimer for now. This happens to all of us during our stages of development. I mean, your actual human development. In your teen years, early teen years, and teen years, you are greatly influenced by the people around you, by the adults that you grow up around, whether those are parents, teachers, coaches, brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles, whoever you spend the most time around, whatever opinions they have, and whatever ideas they have, however they look at things, that becomes your way of looking at things. And often, most people go through their entire lives just perpetuating whatever they were taught when they were 14, 12, or 19. They just go around perpetuating for the rest of their lives those same opinions, the same ideas. They never change because they never challenge themselves. They never challenge their own ideas. They never look to disconfirm their own beliefs. And understand that the smartest people out there they are open to disconfirming themselves. In other words, taking what they believe and asking, how could this possibly be wrong? Why could this possibly not be working? What could possibly be wrong with what I'm doing and the way I'm presenting myself and the strategy that I'm using? Where may I be misleading myself? What am I pretending to not see? This is the concept of disconfirming yourself. What opinions do I have that aren't really my opinions? I got them from somebody else, but I've never actually examined them, and maybe they're holding me back. Maybe they're getting in my way. Where do I have some ideas that are not quite working? Even though they work for somebody else, they don't work for me. So I should probably maybe challenge them, change them, get rid of them. This is the concept of disconfirming yourself. We talked about this in episode number 846. True confidence, disconfirming yourself. But people who are sheep, they never go through this process of disconfirming. They've been assigned an opinion. We all get assigned opinions. Okay, let me be clear. We all get assigned opinions as kids growing up. And again, depending on how strong the stronger the influence of adults that you were around, the more opinions you were assigned. Trust me, even if you don't know they were assigned to you, they were assigned to you. So right now, if you think about some strong adult figures you had around you when you were in your formative years, I guarantee you their opinions were embedded in you. Maybe you've done something about them, maybe you haven't, but I guarantee you they did exist or they do exist. Your challenge right now is to go take an audit of your life and ask yourself, like, where am I perpetuating an opinion that I didn't even come upon by my own thinking? I got it from somebody else and I just kept repeating it, and this is just the way that I'm thinking. Again, episode 846 will help you out a lot with that. The entire quote-unquote fake news theory, nowadays we got fake news. I think the first person who actually started really perpetuating that was Donald Trump. When Trump was running for president, he started labeling stuff fake news and people were saying negative things about him. And some of it actually was fake. Not even fake, it was. I'll explain that in a second. Some of it wasn't, some of it was, but he was able to so effectively use that phrase that people just start throwing fake news at everything. Anything that we didn't agree with, any human being. I'm not saying on any side of a political spectrum or anything like that. But anytime we didn't agree with something, because Trump made it such a ubiquitous term, we just start saying, all right, that's fake news. All right, I don't agree with that, fake news. I don't like that, fake news. This person says something, fake news. I don't like them, fake news. We just start throwing fake news on everything. But I want you to understand this entire concept of fake news, regardless of who says it or where it came from, is based on this third point of being assigned your own opinion. See, it isn't even so much that the news that whether Trump was talking about it or anyone else moving forward, it wasn't so much that the news itself was fake, is that the people, and this includes the media, especially the media, pick and choose what parts of the whole that they're going to share with you. In other words, when there's 10 minutes of footage to be seen, they'll show you the 2.5 minutes that will make you look at it a certain way. The 2.5 minutes that'll make somebody look bad or make somebody look amazing based on how they edit it and depending on what parts they choose to show to you. That's what people call fake news. It's not fake news, it's just impartial news. It is not impartial, it's partial news rather. Not impartial like they don't have a side. Partial news meaning it is not the entire thing. It's not the whole story. They're only telling you the part they want you to know about. So that's where the fake comes in. It should be called untrue news, or incomplete news would actually be the accurate term, but incomplete news doesn't sound as catchy as fake news. Fake news is a better term. It's not fake, it's incomplete. And the news, I talked about this, episode number 1474, stop watching the news. The news just gives you the parts they want you to know, and they leave out the rest. And now, after the news started doing this started about 5-6 years ago, the news started doing this consistently. And the news has influence over people. So guess what happened? People started doing it. Now human beings do the exact same thing. They take the pieces of the information that they agree with, or the parts that will back up their point, and those are the only parts that they talk about. And they leave out everything else that would maybe disconfirm your point, or maybe offer some credence to incredulity to the other side or the opposite opinion from the one that you have. We just completely ignore those and leave those out and only focus on the parts that confirm what we already believe. The problem with confirming what you already believe is it sends you further in the direction that you're already going. And the problem with that is life changes fast. And if you just keep going in the direction that you're already going and never disconfirm or challenge your own thoughts and beliefs and ideas and perspectives, you may end up in a place that you don't want to be in, and it'll be too late for you to do anything about it. It's like you're about to fall over the edge of the waterfall, but it's too late to swim in the opposite direction. Neither side of whatever conversation, if you're talking about the concept of fake news, or as I more properly labeled it, incomplete news, neither side is any more righteous than the other side either, just to be clear. All right, what this all means, it is Your job. Nowadays, it is your job to get all the information. It is your job to get the whole story, as opposed to letting somebody else tell you what the story is, as opposed to somebody else telling you, here's what you should believe, here's what you need to know. You can't go off that anymore. There used to be a time when you could go off that, and we could depend on the news outlets and the newspapers and the media and TV and trusted sources. We could depend on them to do that. We can't do that anymore. Those days are over. That boat has left the dock. Everybody hear what I just said? And I talked about this again in depth in episode 1474, Stop Watching the News. It's your job these days to get all the information. So if you see a video clip that's 60 seconds long to fit Instagram, guarantee you that clip was longer than 60 seconds. They only showed you the part that they wanted to use to get you to feel a certain way. Now go find the whole clip and see the whole thing before you let an opinion out. Before you type anything and publish anything, make sure you have all the information. Your job to get all the information, get the whole story, as opposed to just the parts that somebody told you should pay attention to. It used to be we could trust the news to go through an hour-long document, not an hour-long document, hour-long, let's say video or a 10-page document and pull out the 5 minutes or the 30 pages, not 30 pages, 30 lines that we should pay the most attention to. We used to be able to trust the news to do that. We can't trust them to do that anymore. So now it's your job to do it. And I told you this in early 2020. It's been a challenge for a while now. So you can't let somebody else tell you what parts you should pay attention to, because then you become a sheep. Now that shepherd is telling you what your opinion should be. And no human being is completely objective. Sheep let other people tell them what their opinion should be, and then to compound the crime, they go around repeating an opinion that they were given by another person. Not even vetting whether the opinion makes sense. Not even asking if you actually agree with the opinion based on the information. Hell, not even getting the information to even know if you should agree with it or not. Thinking is work, ladies and gentlemen. And sheep are not the most independent animals on the farm, in case any of you never been to a farm. I'm not a farm boy. I'm a city guy. I come from the concrete jungle, still live in one. But understand, I know the sheep are not the most independent animals out there. All right? They're herd animals. They see other sheep doing something, they do it. And nobody even knows who was the first sheep to do it. We're just all doing it because we saw everybody else doing it. You don't want to become that. All right? Independent thinking is work. It takes effort. It's one of your 5 investments, episode 609. Point number 4. Today's topic is how people become sheep. Is when you do not want the responsibility that comes with thinking and doing for yourself. That's how you become a sheep. Since you don't want that responsibility, you give up your responsibility and thusly give up your power to other people who will gladly think for you and hustle you, leverage you to push their own agenda. Whatever that agenda happens to be, doesn't matter. I mean, you ain't got an agenda. Who cares what their agenda is? What other options you got? Because when we do this, when we absolve ourselves of the responsibility of thinking and doing for ourselves, or if we were to, let's say, have that responsibility, then we have to own the results of those thoughts, and we have to own the results of the subsequent actions that follow those thoughts. In episode number 1621, I introduced the concept of how you can do for self. And what happens when we don't take on that responsibility of doing for self, thinking for ourselves and doing for ourselves, we wait for the prevailing voices, the known people, the trusted sources. We wait for them to tell us what we should think. We wait for them to tell us how we should think. We wait for them to tell us why we should think it. Here's the problem with being a sheep. Because even though those things are very efficient, they save you a lot of time, they save you a lot of effort. You don't have to give any attention to anything. All you got to do is wait for somebody to say what your opinion should be. And all you got to do is copy it because you see everybody else saying it. It must be true. All right, the problem with doing that and being a sheep is that sheep will voluntarily walk into a slaughterhouse because that's what sheep do. They saw the last 2 sheep do it. Okay, I might as well. That's the thing we're doing. I'm going to do it. That's the thing everybody, quote unquote, is doing. I'm going to go do it. This is what sheep do. And sheep walk right into their own death. And you don't have to force a sheep into the slaughterhouse. All you got to do is get one sheep to do it, and then all the other sheep will do the same thing because that's what sheep do. They're herd animals. They see one doing it, they all go do it. And if you're a human being acting like a sheep, that's an issue that you should probably address. Let's recap today's class, which is how people become sheep. What I mean by sheep is not having your own direction, drifting through life, waiting for or being told by a shepherd where to go, how to think, and what opinion you should have. The internet and social media have allowed all of us to connect, which is a great thing, but has also sped up the process of many people becoming sheep, which is a tragic thing. And let's get into what that means. Point number one, you're following without thinking. Whatever or whomever is popular, you attach to it and you don't question it. And the challenge with this is the biggest, like I talked about in episode number 1624, in some cultures, we are listening to people who may not quite be qualified to tell us what we should think, what our opinions are, but we do it anyway simply because it takes a lot less effort to do that. And just because you're smart or you think you are, all right, you can fall for it as well. All right, people got plenty of clever tricks to influence other human beings. Human nature is human nature, no matter how smart or dumb, educated or uneducated you claim to be. Point number two, looking out the window instead of looking in the mirror. Episode 1153, we talked about this. The question is, how much time do you spend looking at others and what they're doing versus looking at yourself and what you're doing or what you need to be doing? If you're not minding your own business, as we talked about in episode 1288, caring more about others and what others do than what you do, you are on the road to becoming a sheep. Point number three, being assigned your opinions. The entire fake news theory is based on this point. It's not even that news is fake these days. Most of the time, the news is just incomplete. People just take the parts out that they want you to have, the parts that will make you feel how they want you to feel, and then they give you that and they leave everything else out as if it didn't even happen. And then they say, well, they're giving you facts. Well, technically, it is a fact, but it's not the whole truth. The difference between the fact and the truth. The fact can be a piece of the truth. The truth is everything. Neither side is any more righteous than the other when it comes to this, whether you're talking left, right, Democrat, Republican, any of that. What it means is people are just giving you the parts that they want you to believe. And what that means is now your job is you no longer can trust anybody. It is your job to get your own information, get the whole story, as opposed to just hearing the parts that somebody told you to pay attention to. Sheep allow other people to tell them what their opinions are because thinking is work. If you're not willing to do that work, you are either are or you're about to become a sheep. And point number four, you don't want the responsibility that comes with thinking and doing for yourself, because then you will have to own the results of those thoughts and of their subsequent actions. But I helped you with this in episode number 1621, so you can stop waiting for the prevailing voices to tell you what to think and tell you what your opinion is, because the biggest problem with being a sheep is how it ends, is that you walk into a slaughterhouse, not even knowing that you're walking to your own death because you saw everybody else doing it. That's what sheep do. So if you're ready to step out of that, develop your own bulletproof mindset so you could take your game where you want it to go, which may be completely different than what everybody else is doing, I suggest you join us at Work on Your Game University, where you get access to the Bulletproof Mindset 2.0 course. Get it at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.